Previously, we started our day in Skagway getting off the Norwegian Bliss, headed to our tour that we were taking up to Emerald Lake, stopped at a variety of different places along the way, and even saw a fox and a bear. Hi, my name is Matthew. I normally cruise and do adventures with my wife Susan. Unfortunately, she is in school this week and can't come along on my latest adventure, a 7-night cruise on the Norwegian Bliss. Come along and join me on my adventures in Alaska.
Emerald Lake. In case anybody cares.
Wow.
Oh, by the way, there's the lake.
I spotted it and I'm like, wow, we see the bear at Emerald Lake. Good job. I forgot about the last one.
Yeah.
So excited to see a bear. And not just a chintzy black bear, but a brown bear, right?
Well, no, it's still a black bear.
That's black.
But it's the brown color.
Well, I'm going to call it a brown bear because that's just one.
It doesn't have the hump.
We have lots of black bears in the Northeast, but no brown bears.
It's a dark bear.
Yep.
So welcome to Emerald Lake in the Yukon Territories. Absolutely gorgeous out here. The colors of the lake are amazing. We just saw a bear. Here's another view of Emerald Lake. We moved down a bit. Boy, it's pretty.
Is with the sun shining. The blue-green color that you saw, it's from the light rays of the sun reflecting on.
So we are at Montana Services at Carcross, Yukon, and lunch today is a bison burger and a Pepsi. Yay, caffeine! Got a bald eagle up here.
Just circling.
So after lunch, we headed back in here to Carcross, and this is Lake Bennett. So this is where the Klondike miners would make their boats and come here on their way up to the gold fields. After our stop at Lake Bennett, we headed into the touristy area of Carcross to explore the shops. So welcome to Carcross.
Sorry.
Bunch of little local shops here. We're gonna go stop at the Maple Rush here because I have orders to pick up maple syrup. Bunch of neat little shops around here. So the Maple Rush shop over here has whiskey barrel aged maple syrup, which we love on our pancakes. So I got 4 bottles of it. I couldn't resist. Whole bunch of other little shops. I got a spike with the train on it over here. The last time we were here. The visitor center is over here. Cool little place to check out if you're in Carcross. Over here in Carcross is the Tushy. It was a paddle wheeler that had sunk. They raised it up, they restored it, and then a fire burnt it down. So what they've done is you've got the front and the paddle wheels, but they've recreated what the structure would have been roughly like in size to show what it would have been, and you can climb up on the second level, but you know, they're not going to restore it. Another thing you'll notice is the railroad tracks here in Carcross. The railroad, this is the Y of the White Passing Yukon Railroad, to turn their engine around, turn their train around when it comes up to Carcross here from Skagway. Give you one last look before we get on the bus and head out for the day. We'll be back next June. So excited, love this little town and its picturesque view. Here's a quick glimpse of what the White Passing Yukon Railroad store has within it. I came here after finishing my tour, which was wonderful. But before I went over to the Klondike Gold Rush National Park and Museum. So the Klondike Gold Rush National Park Visitor Center and their little museum is on the corner of 2nd Avenue and Broadway here in Skagway. Welcome to the Klondike Gold Rush National Park Skagway unit. This place I suggest you start is at the museum here in Skagway. The corner of 2nd Avenue and Broadway, kitty corner to the Red Onion Saloon. These are the locations that the National Park has specifically within their ownership the green area there is the historic district. Welcome to the Klondike Gold Rush National Historic Park Skagway Unit Museum. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the museum, and then we're going to go look at other properties here in the Skagway unit around town. This is an example of how they would ship out the gold after it was harvested from the gold fields. When you come in here to the National Klondike Gold Rush National Park Museum, it kind of follows a path. So we are at the start right here. So much like Seattle, you meet fellow travelers and you experience their journey as you go through. You also have main characters that were major participants in the Klondike Gold Rush, but weren't necessarily fellow travelers in the quest for gold. So the museum here has awesome displays, much like Seattle's unit does, and just follow it through. So we're now at Station 2, and it talks about the different routes to the gold field. So you kind of had your choice to go all the way around to St. Michael and then come up the Yukon to Dawson City. You could also follow the purple route, come up here to Skagway, and then take either the White Pass or Chilkoot trails to Dawson City. Both had its pros and cons. And, you know, you had to decide what was best for you. Much like the Seattle sector of the museum, there are displays with information and posters to read. So there were two boom towns in the immediate area of the Klondike Gold Rush. Dyea was at the foot of the Chilkoot Trail, where Skagway was at the foot of the White Pass Trail. So Dyea is the Tlingit word to pack, where Skagway is the Tlingit word which means roughed up water. So you had one which had a steeper trail and one which had a gradual trail. Prospectors had to decide which trail they were going to use. Do you go shorter but steeper, or do you go longer and easier to travel up? One you could take animals, the other you couldn't. So it really was, the pros and cons had to be weighed once again to decide which was more effective getting up there for you. At this point in time, the museum splits into two parts. It explains about the Chilkoot, and it also explains about the White Pass Trail. So you will want to read both displays, but it kind of follows one side on the Chilkoot and then the other on the White Pass. When you reach the shores of Lake Bennett, which is the modern-day town of Carcross, which we were at earlier today, prospectors had to build a boat to make their way up to Dawson City. So this part of the display explains how you build your boat and the journey that you had to travel on to get to where you were. It also talks about how the fellow travelers that we met at the beginning of the museum here fared along the way. Much like Seattle, they also have a Wheel of Chance. So let's spin it and see what we get.
They'll put it up. It's going up. We'll have to come back and see it up.
I put the went to Dawson, found in Twin.
I love it. That's good, Rosemary. Okay. Okay, the upstairs is good. Okay, so that we will go.
So we ended up turning back on the trail. Oh, wait. And we still turned back on the trail and didn't make this. And then this is a final display that they have. How the Klondike Gold Rush impacted modern day culture. So, Klondike bars. And then other things. So the Klondike Gold Rush National Historic Park has, the National Park Service has several buildings here in town. This is the gift, the Molasses Geographic Shop, the official partner of the Klondike Gold Rush National Park and National Historic Park. So you can get all your like souvenir stuff in there. Right over here is Jeff Smith's Parlor Museum. This is one of the locations that you can actually get a guided tour from the National Park Ranger. It is on 2nd Street, heading to the north from Broadway. So it is, the actual parlor is closed, but you can walk through this part right here. And so this kind of tells you what the attraction looks like inside. So this building across the street, the facade is completed out of driftwood. It's the Arctic Brotherhood Museum. And I believe our tour guide said that that President Harding was the only president to visit Skagway. And he is a member of the Arctic Brotherhood now. Even though he's gone, he's still a member. So some of the buildings here in the National Park Service Historical District are owned by the National Park Service. And so they have plaques on their doors if they are owned by the National Park Service saying what they were and the year that they were in that. So this used to be Vera Baldwin's Confectionery in 1899, and it's now Fresh Taya River Fresh Local Art. This one was the Hearn Liquor Store in 1937, another National Park owned building. Pacific Clipper Line office in 1898. So this right here is the mascot. It's a national park, part of the museum. And they have a bunch of Seattle brewing bottles, Rainier beer. It's really, really cool. So we're gonna head in there. So it's a replica of a saloon. I'm going to step back so we can get a wider angle.